Hey guys, we're back at the beach house. This time we're going to make a boat and a watchtower. Stay tuned. Alright, we're going to start by making a little model boat. Or if you're tiny, it's a regular size boat, so whichever. There's lots of parts and pieces. It's got a couple tricky things, but we'll tackle it one piece at a time. Step number one, we're going to make the deck of the boat. So it's this blue oval shape, and we're going to center this deck piece, which doesn't look like there's no wrong or right side. So we're just going to center it up as best as we can here. That hole is going to be where the mast is. And of course we get glue everywhere because I wasn't sure if it was going to cover the whole thing or just in the middle. So I went a little bit liberal, but the good news with this stuff is it dries clear. So we're good. Alright, this is the funky part. So we got this kind of a V shape that we cut out, and that's going to be the sides of our boat. And you'll see, it kind of looks like a boat when you curve it around. So, gonna put our deck upside down, and there's a line in the middle, and that's gonna be at the top, or the front of the boat. I don't know boat terms, whatever the front is. And you're just gonna wrap it around, just on the top edge. It's a little fiddly, but just take your time and you'll get it. Once you get to this point, it does kind of overlap, and just hold it there until it's stuck together. Then you're just going to flip it upside down, and you're going to stick it onto this other piece. It sounds like it's not going to work, but it does. Just fit it in there. It fits exactly in. And I also use the hole there to my advantage, so to get it all the way down to the bottom, just poked a little wire in there and flattened it out. Just like that. It didn't fit exactly on there, but so I just squished it on, glued it, held it, glued it, held it until it was in a boat shape. Alright, now we're going to make the sail. So there's going to be a long dowel and a little short one. And what you're going to do is you're going to take this dark blue ribbon and kind of wrap it about 2 millimeters in, because you need room for it to go into that hole on the top of your deck. So you're just going to wrap it around. It tells you to cut it into about a centimeter size piece and then wrap it. I find that it's easier to keep it long because you can actually pull it, manipulate it, and then trim it. It's still a little tricky, even with this method. Take your time. And all the other pieces, except for that one, is going to go all the way to the end of the little rods. And there you go. And you got to do it the same thing to the little one. Next up, we're going to make the actual sail, which would never work in real life because it's full of holes. But we'll go with it. So we're going to cut out our pattern, and then we're going to use the lines of the netting to our advantage and just cut with the lines and make a triangle. I found doing this part, the easiest way to do it is to lay it flat. So I'd put a little glue on the mast here, put it on my table and then set the little material onto it. And I did the same for the lower part and just let it dry completely before I tried to move it, because it'll just fall apart if you try to pick it up at all. Now once that's pretty dry where it's not going to fall apart if you pick it up, I'm going to cut out a piece of this twine, and they want you to split it apart. Mine was very thready. I think it said it was supposed to split into 3 parts. Realistically, mine only split into 2 before it just fell to pieces. So I'm just going to split this apart, and then you're going to save the other parts for another part of the boat. Now we're going to put this twine from the top to the end of the other one, but you can notice that it sticks out a little bit. So I just trimmed it just a smidge so that it would make a little more sense. And I glued it on just towards the middle, because what you're going to do is you're going to wrap it around the top and that side one. I found the easiest way to do this is to glue it on the side, let it dry completely, and then do the end pieces. While that's drying, I'll just cut out all my parts and pieces that I'll need later on. You'll be very good at multitasking when you do these projects. So while one thing's drying, you'll find something else to do, I'm sure. Okay, so that's pretty dry. You can see that it's not falling apart when I pick it up. So we're just gonna wrap it around the top here and glue it down. Much easier to manipulate when that side is glued down for you. And I'm going to use my little clothespins to help me out, and I'm going to do the other end. Alright, this should be pretty decent now and holding together. This glue is pretty strong. And then we're just going to stick it into the bottom. I didn't glue it because it was pretty firm for me, but if it's loose for you, by all means put a drop of glue in there before you put the mast in so it doesn't fall over on you. But mine stuck in pretty good. Now we get to decorate it. Alright, we pulled apart some of those twine pieces. I stiffened it up just a smidge with a little bit of glue going down the edge, kind of like putting hairspray on your hair, just to make it a little less floppy so you can see it's a little bit stiff. And then I just cut it to the size they said, but I did end up trimming it here and there to fit the project. So I just, that's a little too long, trim it and glue it. And there's 3 little strands here. when the glue's wet, it's a little precarious. Just kind of, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just for aesthetics. It looks cool. And then we're just going to stick our little bits and bobs, the little starfish, and there's a seagull that you cut out, and then a few seashells here and there. Now when I got to these seashells, doing it this way, they would not stay on. So I found just laid it down, made my life a whole lot easier. And then we just, even then it was a little bit wonky putting those things on. So the seashells on the strings, a little tricky. Now, I was staring at this picture for a while and trying to figure out what was at the bottom of this boat. It doesn't really give any instructions at all. So, what I figured out, zooming in and magnifying, is it's got a long piece of this rope and it's twirled about 4 times. So, I found the easiest way to make little loops is just to make a loop, glue it, and pin it. And just do that 4 times. I kind of guessed on the spacing based on the picture, and big enough for it to fit on the bottom of the boat there. Again, it's just purely for looks, so just make it the best you can. And there we go. Got 4 little loops. And then we're going to double check that it fits on our boat. Yep, it's long enough. I don't think the tail end is long enough, but that's okay. We'll deal with that later on. Yeah, see this picture, it was the only picture I could go by, really. And there is a light on here, but I'm going to do all the lights in one shebang. So we'll save that for the next video. And we put our little cute anchor on there, and there you go. You got your boat. We'll just set that aside to dry. For the most part, that's done. Now this little boat has oars because that sail ain't gonna work. So we need some oars. And it's pretty basic. You're just gonna cut out all these shapes and glue it on the ends of our oars. The only thing that I messed up at first was I put the little pieces upside down. So look at the picture. The dark red and the dark blue goes to the bottom. I goofed and put it upside down right here, but I flipped it over after a while. Everything's fixable. We can fix it. There you go. Much better. I did let those completely dry, and then I will trim all the excess edges. Don't try cutting all the excess off before the glue dries. It's just going to slide all over the place for you. So just let those dry, trim it up if needed, you're good. Now we're going to make a whole bunch of little life rings. And these are, oh, they're fun. They're not too bad. So you're going to have a blue ribbon and a red ribbon, and then this twine stuff. Because you're going to make it look kind of like this, but it's a little smaller. So same idea, just smaller. So I did this in stages. The first thing I did is I just glued the twine all the way around all of them first. Just do it all at once. And I didn't do it as loose as the clock, so I just literally just glued it almost directly all the way around it. Kept it nice and tight. And again, I kept the twine long and trimmed it as I needed it. Alright, and now I got them all wrapped. So the next step is they want 3 pieces in blue and 4 pieces in red. So we're just going to, and we're going to get really good at this, and I'm going to use my 2 ends that overlap at the end as kind of my starting point, and you're just going to wrap it at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and then 9 o'clock. You're just going to do every single one, just like this. There you go. They're really cute when you get them all done. It's kind of satisfying. It is tedious. Take your time, but it's kind of therapeutic to make them. Now we're going to make the giant lifeguard tower, the Watchtower, that little tower thing. So the first thing is we're going to make the floor. It kind of looks like a tiled floor. And all you do is you cut out that checkerboard pattern, and you're going to fold the edges, pre-fold it just to make your life easier, and then we're going to glue it on the piece of wood. Alright, and we're just going to set that aside, and we're going to move on to the next thing. Now we're going to do, I'm just kind of doing all the little pieces before I get to the big thing. Get it all done. Now, it gave me 2 patterns, the 18.2 and the 18.3. They're exactly the same size. So I'm just going to cut out one and use it as my main pattern. If I mess this one up, I have a spare, I guess. And I lost it gives you a piece of white cardboard, and I lost it somewhere. not unusual for me. But if this happens to you, you can use any old box. A cereal box is the exact same texture. It's just got printing on it. So what I ended up doing is I glued this pattern piece onto it so that it's white on both sides. If you have it automatically on white, that's fine. You didn't have to do this extra step, but I just wanted it to make it look as clean as possible. Now, once I get my piece of cardboard, just like nothing ever happened, and I'm going to use the side that has the printing and it might show through. I wanted that white piece of paper on there in case it showed through the crepe paper that you're going to put on top here. So you're just going to put this right on top. This is going to be like kind of like our little cabana roofing, and then cut it out. I originally was going to just fold it, but it kind of didn't fold straight. So I'm just going to put a tiny little score, not all the way through, right down the middle. I'm going to use my pattern as my guide here and just score it so that it'll fold much more nice and neat. There we go. We got our roof, and we'll just set that aside for now. Okay, let's start building this tower. This tower took a lot longer than I expected it to. But there's 4 pieces for the bottom, and they're all exactly the same. And pay attention to the placement of the pieces. So, for example, inside, outside kind of thing, and just go by the picture. I did goof the first time around, so and I had to take it apart a little bit and then put it back together. Not a biggie. This glue is pretty easy to take apart if it's not dry all the way through, but you'll know it's right when you tip it up and the top is a nice little square shape. When I first did it, it was off and I knew I didn't put the legs in the right spot. So we're just gonna do one piece, flip it, and then do what I should have done, and I goofed here, is instead of putting it on the outside, and you're gonna see me do it right there, I should have put it on top. And that kind of made it all wonky. But I did redo it and it's correct now. And here in a minute is going to be a perfect example of not waiting for the glue to dry. So I'm going to try and place this right here where I want it. But because the glue is not dry and everything is not staying together, yep. So what I ended up doing is redoing it. Glue one piece, let it dry, glue another piece, let it dry, so on and so forth, and here we go. We got a tower. And from the top view, that is the proper way it's supposed to go. I had it wrong one time, but that's how it's supposed to look. Now we're going to wrap each little hinge area right here with the dark blue ribbon. And I think the best way to do this is to keep your ribbon long. You're going to be screaming at this, and do one at a time. So I kind of glued it there, right there. I did this first one the regular way, but I glued it kind of halfway, let it dry, and then I put it up, let it dry, trim it. So this took a while, over a long period of time. And then you're going to do the exact same thing on the bottom. Now, worst case scenario, let's say this was just way too fiddly for you. You could paint this. So you could just put a dark blue paint around where they want you to put it. I was tempted, but it does look cool with it wrapped. It kind of looks like they tied it up with rope. And once it finally is stuck, there you go. See, it looks good. Frustration was worth it. And then you're just gonna glue it to your little platform. And I'm just gonna set that aside to dry while I do the next area. You thought you were done with all the ribbon? Oh, no, no, no. It gets worse. There's more. Ah! But I swear this is the last of it. So, what we're going to do is hunker down, and we're going to do every little knobby in the blue ribbon. So, just relax, watch some YouTube, and glue away. And there we go. We got all our little pieces. Ta-da! Okay, this was another part, for me, was a little frustrating. I think it was because the ribbon is on there, and so things don't lay flat as you want it to on your table. So I tried doing it exactly how they said. And normally, this would work perfectly. Just glue a piece, kind of lay it flat as you can, let it dry, and then go on to the next piece. But for me, this did not work because that ribbon makes your pieces just a slightly elevated, and just enough for it to not lay flat on your table. And it just did not want to stay for me. I tried all sorts of different ways of doing this. I tried propping it up. I tried gluing one piece, trying to have it dry as much as I can until I went to the next piece. I put different things. It just kept falling apart. It was very frustrating. So I gave up on that and I tried just building it directly on the platform. The nice part about this platform, it's got little indicators of where your pieces are going to go. So we're just going to use that and just build it from here because it does not want to lay down for us. And this worked perfectly. So I just stuck the piece right where it said it wanted to go and went that way. Ta-da! Much, much, much better. And it glued so well that let's do the little roof. So we'll put these little pieces in here. It does want to stick to your fingers. And just get it as center as possible. And straight. And don't knock it off like I just did. And now we're just going to stick that roof on that we built. I kind of bent it to the same angle as these little triangle pieces, and then it'll fit right on there. Did I say we were done with the blue ribbon wrapping? Nope, we got another thing. We have to make a rope ladder here. So all these little dowels, we need to wrap them in ribbon. Ta-da! I wish it was that easy. Once you get those wrapped, which is the hardest part of this whole project here, honestly. So we're going to cut a couple pieces of this twine, and it wants to curl up on me. So I tried to just glue that first rung on there to get our spacing right, and then just put them all the way up. I did immediately, after I did this, it wasn't quite long enough. It doesn't give you the dimensions or anything, so you kind of have to guess. So I did have to redo this as far as the spacing of the steps, just to make it a little bit wider apart. And then we're going to attach our ladder to the back end of this. So it's glued on the underside of the doorway on your little watchtower. So I just propped up my tower and then stuck it on there. I did end up kind of clamping it down for a while because you don't want this to fall off. And I put a liberal amount of glue because I was really paranoid that it was going to fall down. Once that's dry, we could flip it down, and there you go. Yeah, the first time I did it was, the rungs were all the way at the bottom. Didn't quite work for its purpose, so I did space it out a little bit more. Now there's a light in this one. There's no cover to it or anything. We're just gonna stick it in, so it just goes kind of in the middle in the back. We're gonna glue it down, and then the only clue that this is in here is that one picture with the little red dotted line, and that's where you're going to glue your wiring. I will say the instructions on this can be extremely vague, so stare at your pictures a lot. I have missed parts and pieces after I've completed a project and go, what? I don't remember that. But so look at your instructions very, very carefully. once you got the light in, we're going to put one red life preserver on one side and a blue one on the other. And I did feel that this ladder was a little too floppy, so I just put a little tack of glue right there, and so that it'll lay a little bit flatter for me. And there's our little watchtower. Pretty cool. Alright, this section done. I had plans of doing much more than this, but that tower took a long time to build. So a bit of time for that one. It's just all the ribbon wrapping. That took forever. So, but the results are great. So we got a nice boat with some oars, a bunch of life preservers that I'm sure we're going to use elsewhere, and a lifeguard tower. I say we did a pretty good progress. So, our next video, I'm pretty positive, will be our last one on this. We're just gonna finish everything. So we got just like a little hammock, some fishing poles, and the building itself. So, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!